a CBDC is by far the worst thing that could happen to the world if the United States implements that.
Hmm.
Um, the you think that they have control now when they can call your bank if they figure out what bank you have, they
Hmm.
can call your bank and lock your account. Um, yeah, that's bad. But imagine if they could say, well, we didn't sell enough corn this year, or maybe we grew too much corn and the prices are too low, and we want you to use it up before it goes to waste. So we're going to give everybody $100 free, and you can only use it for the next week, and you have to buy corn with it.
Hi, and welcome to the GG Bullion Podcast, episode 5. And today I have on with me Bitcoinman and Satoshi Metals. How are you guys doing today?
Doing great,
Yo,
doing great.
All right. Just for the audience, if you guys would like to introduce yourselves, like what you're all about, Bitcoinman, if you want to go first.
Sure thing, sure thing. Hey, what's going on, everyone? My name is Bitcoinman, or that's what I go by. That's a long story in itself, but we're not getting into that today. So, a lot of you stackers out there don't like crypto and all that, and I get it, but ironically, without crypto, I wouldn't be into metals, and that's what really got me into stacking and keeps me stacking. So, um, yeah, that's pretty much it. Well, it's not it. There's too much to share, but that's what that's all I got for y'all for now.
Okay, and that's an interesting thing. I'd like to ask about that. And then Satoshi, if you'd like to just tell us or tell the audience what you're all about.
yo, what's going on? All of my Bitcoin, silver, gold fam, GG Bullion, Bitcoin man, everybody, all my fam out there, how's it going? It's Toshi Metal here. Gonna talk to you today a little bit about what we do, why we do it, and how we're trying to bridge metal and crypto together because we're fighting the same enemies.
Yeah, now I thought this would be kind of an interesting conversation because I wanted to talk about the general future of precious metals, but since you brought that up, this is something that I did want to ask about. It seems like when I look at social media that there's this almost very adversarial relationship when you see on Twitter or X or whatever, or Reddit, whatever it may be, where it's like the diehard physical stackers, which I would definitely put myself a lot more in that camp, I suppose. Um, it- but those people, and then the super crypto people that are say like, you own gold because you're old, all that stuff. It seems very adversarial, and it seems like it could potentially be more synergistic. So why do you guys think that is? I mean, I guess the simple answer would just be like, oh, one is completely like a digital thing, and then the other is a tangible commodity. But I'm curious on you guys' opinions. Maybe we could just start off there.
Yeah, sure. First of all, I think the main reason is because a lot of people in precious metals think that it comes in and it's taking away from the money that could be coming in into precious metals. So I think
Mhm.
that's really the main bit about it, why there's all this, and then it goes the same way, I guess, maybe, or just people firing back and just it's like I don't like that, to be honest. I feel like it's not the right move, and honestly, I think precious metals are going to be very, very important in the near future because essentially what's happening is we're moving into a fully digital financial system, and precious metals are going to be the most private form of ownership that you're going to be able to have. And I think that once a lot of people realize that, and they'll realize it eventually when they tell them their cash is useless and all their hoards under their mattress or whatever are now going to be useless in a couple of months or whatever the deadline is, then they're going to start thinking about other alternatives. So I think that's when precious metals are really going to shine.
And Satoshi, what are your thoughts on kind of that adversarial relationship? I do you think that it kind of stems from that, where it's, oh, this investment capital could be flowing into the thing that I'm really into, so I try and advocate for that. You think that sounds pretty accurate, or do you have a different idea, or maybe some different thoughts?
Yeah, so I actually spend a lot of time thinking about this because this is our business. This is what we do. We're trying to cater to both the precious metals community as well as the crypto community. And it can be challenging at times because of, not because of the community as a whole, but because of the fringe, 10% on each tail of the bell curve.
Hmm.
The maxis. That's where the real issues I see are. It's the maxis because not so much because they fear. This is my own opinion, my own perspective. It's not because they so much fear cash flow going away from their stack, away from their investment,
Yeah.
but more that they identify with their stack. They identify with Bitcoin or gold or silver or precious metals in general. It's like a part of who they are. So when
Mm.
someone is in the opposite camp, it's like, it's like it's oil and water. They look at it as a threat to their identity. That's my
No.
opinion on it.
I think that makes a lot of sense because it boils down to basically human tribalism, which is very much ingrained in
Yeah,
us.
it's primal, man. It's primal. And when you're talking about the human element and projecting what's going to happen in the future, because this is all this is, it's a
Mhm.
projection. We're projecting that things are going to get worse with the dollar, and we want to preserve our wealth, so we go to our thing. And it's very primal. It's about taking care of your family, about making sure you can eat, making sure you're comfortable when you're older. It's straight to our roots, in my opinion.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense, especially like you said, like when it's coming down to, yeah, like basically preparing your family or yourself for what many people see as an impending, if not financial collapse, like, at least a bigger recession than, in my opinion, we are in now, even though I believe the stock market's kind of being artificially propped up. That's a whole different, you can check out episode 1 of this podcast if you want to go down that rabbit hole. But so yeah, that's very interesting. So Bitcoin man, I did have a question for you real quick because
Yeah,
uh
sure.
in your intro you said that getting into crypto got you into stacking physical precious metals. Did I hear that correctly?
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
I'd like to hear more about that because I don't know if I've ever heard somebody tell me like a story about that. Like, oh, I got into crypto and that's how I got into stacking. I'm sure it happens plenty. It just would be interesting to hear a firsthand account of
Yeah,
how that
sure.
kind of happened.
So basically, uh, this blockchain called Hive, and it's also a social media, right? So
Okay.
a little while ago, I stumbled on it, and I was like, "Oh, that's pretty interesting. You can earn just for making content when people like it and whatnot."
Mhm.
And there's a lot more to it, but anywho, so I got into that a little bit, and that seemed pretty cool because I was always like pretty artistic and making stuff on Instagram and this and that. But like, it's very hard to monetize these things and really like it takes a lot of work and effort, and like I don't really give too much focus on one thing. I do a lot of things at once. It's pretty messed up in a sense, but that's just how I roll. So anywho, so I was on the platform, and then like you would just be blogging, and sometimes I'd be like, oh man, I don't know what to write about. And then like there was people stacking on there called the silver gold stackers, and I was like, oh, cool, that's pretty neat. And then I just got into it. And I'm like, oh, okay, so I would just be buying silver, posting about it, and then I'd be earning for making that post. And I'd be like, oh, okay, that offsets it a little. And now I have this silver that I could still go and sell and get money for, and that could go up in value as well. So I was like, you know what, this is pretty cool. And then since then, like now I'm into wanting to produce my own products and help other people produce.
Okay, that's very cool. Because I know myself and Satoshi both make our own silver products. It is something that is very fun to get into. But I know we had kind of talked about that adversarial relationship, at least that we see, like Satoshi, you had said, that is more on the fringes of the bell curve, so to speak. Um, as far as seeing something synergistic, like if we were to see, precious metals, and I know Satoshi, and you can get into this, that the products that you make are on the blockchain, which some people might like, some people might not like, some people might not even understand. So I'm curious if, because I dabble in crypto, but I'm mainly into silver and gold and platinum stacking. Um, Satoshi, could you give like a brief definition of like what even is the blockchain? I believe it's like a ledger system essentially, right? And how that could impact the precious metals market, especially if we're getting into how because I know Kinesis was a thing for a gold backed token, which to my knowledge didn't really end up taking off, and I haven't really seen much more. And maybe that's because most stackers want the physical thing, and that's introducing counterparty risk. So I'm just curious your take on that, and if you can give a brief explanation of how that kind of works with the whole blockchain technology or whatever.
Sure. So I just want to really quick before we go down that road, I want to
Okay.
tell you that I actually, very similar to Bitcoin Man, I got into metals through investing in crypto. So I'm very I've been a long time investor. I've been investing for probably 15, 20 years now. I started
Mhm.
back when I was in the military, a long time ago, and when I got out, um, I knew that I wanted to start my invest like real portfolio. So I built a real estate business and a rental property business, and I managed it all myself. And it started out small. It started out with I just wanted to uh, cover the bills, and then I wanted to cover all my bills, and then I wanted to make a profit. And the next thing you know, I was running a profitable business on the side.
Mhm.
Um, and I said, okay, well, that was great. Now market prices are getting kind of high. This is probably around 2016, 2017. I said, I don't want to sell my buildings because they're all cash flowing really well, but I don't want to invest anymore in real estate. Where do I go? So I started
Mhm.
looking around, and I started learning about crypto, and I made it in for the 16, 17 bull run. Um, my wife and I, we did very good. We ended up buying another rental property out of that. Um, and I kept learning through the bear market of 18 and 19. And that was about the time that I got into metals because I was looking at, I was doing a lot of charting. I'm sure most crypto people can relate. You do a lot of chart reading, a lot of tea leaf reading. And I noticed some patterns on the silver and gold charts that looked really good to me. This is in 18 and 19. So you can go back and look at the charts and realize what I was seeing. So I started shifting everything toward metals. I just started dumping into them. And obviously those have paid off now as well.
Mhm.
So that's my long-winded way. I wanted to explain that because it kind of puts you and during this whole time I'm a software engineer. Okay, during the last I've been a software engineer since 2011
Okay.
professionally. So I've been a software engineer for quite a while. I've worked on a lot of different projects, including payment systems. Um, so all of this kind of comes to a head to where we're at now. Um, and why we're doing what we're doing with metal and with crypto. I don't see them solving the same problem. I see them solving different problems and fighting the same enemy doing it.
Okay.
The enemy, we all identify the same enemy. It's inflation. Regardless if you're using U.S. dollar or some other currency, that's based on something else, but still gets inflated. I mean, that's the basic use case for crypto uh, is that we're trying to escape inflation, just like the metal folks. And I consider myself a metal folk as well, just so we're clear.
Yeah.
But I see them solving different issues. So gold and silver are really a great store of wealth over long term. It's a hard asset. But it does have some faults. You know, you don't want to let somebody else hold on to it for you, obviously, which means you got to secure it yourself. Which I'm sure that you experience this. You run a business doing this, as do I. You know, you got to keep it safe. You got to. It's difficult.
Yeah.
So you invest in security systems and, safes and guns and all types of stuff. So that it's expensive to hold on to. It can be, and it's hard to transfer. If you want to buy something in Japan, you're not going to send them 100 ounces of silver. You could, but it'd be crazy.
Yeah.
So I kind of see that's where Bitcoin steps in. Now, Bitcoin, I love the community. I love everybody there. You're going to not like that I'm going to say this, but yes, you can remember some word phrase to access your wallet or whatever, but it's hard to transfer without the internet. Okay, so Bitcoin is kind of, I know that the network doesn't disappear when the internet goes out. You could destroy the internet for the whole world and we'd still have Bitcoin. But the network becomes a lot less valuable because there's a lot less people connected at that point. So it's kind of based around this whole idea that the internet's going to be there. And it works really well for transferring money, a hard asset, from one nation to another nation without having to deal with, transfer fees and taxes and all this other crap that they try and pile on. But like, you got somebody here that's, working their ass off and they're trying to make some money to send back to their family in Ecuador. If they send it via, what is it, Western Union, I mean, they could pay up to like 20-30% in fees, I think. It's crazy. So sorry, I know that's kind of long-winded, but it just brings it brings it all together. They're solving different problems, but we're fighting the same entity. And the reason we're doing what we're doing is because we're trying to solve a problem that ties it all together. We put our jewelry, all of our silver items, on the blockchain in a way that can't be replicated and it can't be broken. So what we're doing is we're taking every silver item that we make for somebody, and we take some, we create a unique GUID for it, or a unique string. It's a series of letters and numbers. You get that with your paper certificate. We take the weight of the item down to the 10th of a gram, and we take a unique number that's laser engraved on the item. And with those things together, along with the item type and a couple other things that we look at, we're able to create a unique hash that we post on the blockchain. Now, why is this important? Have you ever tried to buy an Engelhard?
I have seen them for sale. Yes.
Okay, so
I don't stack them myself, but I have seen them.
Okay, so I do stacked Engelhards. I got one of these 100-ounce Engelhards, and they have a serial number on it. And one of the first things that I had that had a serial number on it. So I was like, oh, that's cool. I wonder if I could figure this out. I wonder if I can see when it was made and everything. And it turns out it's really hard to verify it based on a serial number. It's just not a thing, and the company's out of business. Engelhards notoriously got drilled and filled with lead too. So, there's a lot of bad ones floating around out there. That you're not going to have that issue with our jewelry. Even if Satoshi Metal goes out of business, you personally can interact with our smart contract for free on the blockchain and verify that you have an authentic Satoshi Metal piece. And as far as I know, we're the only people doing that.
Yeah, and that's why I'm really glad I had you on, because it seems like you understand the I guess tech aspect of this. Obviously, you made your business surrounding that. I have a piece of yours that I purchased. I haven't verified it because I trust you, but also I don't really know what I'm doing. But do you see that as something that will be, because I can already see some stackers being like, okay, well, I don't want anybody to even know I have it. Like anonymity, complete anonymity is I keep
Sure.
mispronouncing that.
And
Is
this provides it 100% too. This
okay.
is 100% anonymous. So what's getting posted is this thing called a hash. Um, a hash is it's a string of letters and just try and make this as simple as possible for the non-technical folk. It's a long series of it's a long series of letters and numbers that you will only get if you put in the exact same thing every single time. So an example, let's say I have a black box, okay, and it's my hash box. I put something in, I get a hash out the other side, okay.
Okay.
If I put an apple in there and I get 1, 2, 3, 4 out the other side, the only way I will ever get 1, 2, 3, 4 again is if I put that same exact apple in there. If I take a bite out of it, if I change its color, if I change its size, if I dehydrate it, anything um, that changes it, even in the least, will change that number on the other side 1,000%. It won't look anything like the other.
Okay.
And we're doing the same thing with unique things that get sent to you with your item. So when you got your item, you should have gotten a paper certificate of authenticity, and it has
Yeah.
a secret code on it.
Hmm.
You also get the item, and you get a unique number on that item. What you do is you take that information, you go to our website, or you can interact with our smart contract yourself if you're technical, but you can go to our website, click on the COA link, and just fill in the 3 or 4 fields that are on there. And you weigh your item. That's one another unique thing. We do that because if somebody tries to duplicate the item, let's say they get your paper certificate and they know the number on the back of the item, but they didn't actually get the item or whatever. Maybe you just took a picture of it or something.
Yeah.
They're not going to know the exact weight because all the items are handmade, so they all vary in weight slightly, and the weight is down to the tenth of a gram. So it would be very difficult to to exactly duplicate your item.
Yeah.
And unless it was 100% duplicated, the hash that they get out of that black box will be different, and you won't be able to verify it on the blockchain.
Okay, so I think I get the gist of how this system kind of works. Um, Now, I guess that is for people holding the physical metals. As far as, you know, because I've noticed a lot of younger people, a lot of younger people don't even carry cash. I mean, people carry less cash in general now that credit, debit cards, pay by many different phone apps. All of that stuff is becoming more commonplace. So I'm kind of wondering, as time goes by, do you see, I guess, larger institutions? Because right now we have, like silver and gold ETFs, for example, and the commodities exchanges and whatnot, which a lot of people, myself included, see some fraudulent stuff going on there. Do you see that as a possible, and both of you feel free to jump in here. Um,
Yes, yes.
do you guys see that as a possible answer? Because I mean, the physical metals are good for, I guess, retail investors, and obviously, they are for industrial use, especially with stuff like silver and platinum. Gold is more monetary, but still does have industrial uses. But for those big exchanges or big suppliers, do you see that technology being rolled out in the future? Because it doesn't seem, to my knowledge, that's being done. And maybe that's a better system where you can point to a ledger that is ostensibly unbiased and be like, okay, this stuff is here, rather than what it is now with the COMEX or the London Metal Bullion Association or whatnot, where there's potentially, we have no idea how much silver they actually have, what these contracts are like, all of that kind of fraudulent stuff. Do you see that actually being rolled out by any of these institutions within the next I don't know, 20 years, or do you think they're gonna keep trying to stay on the fraud train, and you think it'll have to be new institutions trying to come out and do that separately, or something else entirely?
Right. So actually the as Satoshi Metals was talking about all these things, I was like, that's what I wanted to bring up. But before I get into that, I also own a few Satoshi Metals products, and you got some beautiful stuff. Love it. But yeah, anywho,
Thank
getting
you.
back
Thank
into
you.
it. So like I think that this is really what blockchain is really about, and where the value can come in, and where it could help mitigate a lot of these things, or not mitigate it, but make it at least a lot more difficult to cheat. Because if there's a record and decentralization, then things could be a lot more difficult to pull shady moves. So ideally, obviously, there would be I even wrote some articles about it and shared it on X about making this sort of um, a currency that's, or a cryptocurrency that is backed by precious metals. But the thing is, it's pretty tough to do. Like there's a lot of hurdles and challenges to overcome to make it work. But if those things could be addressed, and if people really put their minds to it, I think that it could really be an alternative to all these shady, you know, operations. But it would really, I think, take like the majority of stackers and like people that are into precious metals getting into it.
Mhm.
So it shouldn't come to a surprise to anybody at this point, but I think that there's more to blockchain than just finance.
Okay.
I think that there's a lot more to it than just finance, to be honest with you. Finance is like the least the least concerning thing in my brain right now. I mean, we have so many other things that we can do with blockchain technology in an open way. For example, I'm sure you have a smartphone, iOS
Mhm.
or Android.
Yeah.
Um, well, all the apps that are in those stores are published by indie developers or software companies, and Apple takes like a crazy amount of money, like 30% or more of their profit, just off the top. They don't care how much it costs to keep the lights on in that company or whatever. Like they take it off the top. It might actually be more than it's been a long time since I developed for one of those, so I can't quite remember. But um, with a blockchain solution, you can get authentic content from a software company, or authentic content from a music artist, or you can get an authentic copy of a video from those people and pay them directly and cut out the middleman entirely. And there's more to it. Smart contracts enable us to pay royalties. So you can, let's say, an artist sells a song, and that song is on the blockchain, and then that person, or actually better than the song. But I'm sure you have. Do you have a game console like an Xbox or whatever?
Um, I have the old Nintendo 64.
All right. Well, so with the like Xbox and stuff, you can download stuff for your games, download
Yeah.
DLC add-ons for your
Yeah.
games,
I
right?
have
So let's say,
Steam. I have Steam. Let's go with
okay,
Steam.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
So same idea, right? So let's say you buy something on the Steam marketplace, and now, well, you might actually be able to do this in Steam. I'm not sure. Can you resell stuff on there? I think you can.
Yes. Yeah. Like
Yeah. So
DLC stuff. I think so. For
right. So
certain content.
let's imagine you want to do that with your Xbox. Let's say you buy, Red Dead Redemption or something for your Xbox, and you're playing it, you buy all the extra crap, and now you're done, and you want to sell it. Even if the game is downloaded, even if it's not a hard copy of the game, if it's like a CD copy, or if it's like a downloaded copy with all the DLC, with blockchain, you can sell that content to somebody else. They can actually transfer it to them and show ownership of it, and they can resell it. And then the game company doesn't actually lose on a sale, because they can implement royalties into every third party sale. It's just all a part of this technology of what it can do. So I don't see them solving the same problems. I see them solving different problems. I really like I like the idea of Bitcoin being used as a way of transferring wealth in large ways, like if you want to buy a house or if you want to transfer money overseas. I love Bitcoin for that. Um, but yeah, there's a lot more that it can do, a lot more. And
Okay.
I maybe I see that because I'm an engineer and I'm like steeped in this every day, all day.
Yeah.
Um, but I'm super excited for the future.
Okay, so you think that in the future that's going to kind of be rolled out for both, I suppose, tangible and physical products for authentication purposes, and for, a couple of the other things that you had mentioned, that we're going to see that, in the next 20, in the next couple
It's not
decades.
it's not even in the next couple decades. So we're doing it right now. So
Okay,
last
but
I
why,
heard, Starbucks was using the blockchain to track coffee beans from where they're being sourced from.
mhm.
Intel is using it. They have a whole network set up. I forget what they're using it for, but they're using it for something. Um, I'm pretty sure Walmart was using it. Bitcoinman, I think I'm missing a few. I know Walmart was using it for inventory tracking. There's all types of implementations of uh, using the blockchain today, including what we're doing with COAs. I mean, we're a small company, but the idea that we're using could be rolled out at any company. I should patent it, but it's too
Mhm.
simple of an idea.
Yeah. Okay, that's interesting. So, huh. So I guess since it's being used for that now, and I know there have been some small attempts that haven't really panned out, why do you think, if that's being used, I guess, by larger companies, like you mentioned, Starbucks and whatnot, as far as not only just using it for authentication, but to I guess make things more divisible or fungible when it comes to precious metals. Why do you think we have not seen like a successful gold or silver or platinum backed token, or
I
some kind
wouldn't
of
buy
crypto?
that.
I'm saying, did you say you would or would not buy that?
No, there's no way I'd buy that.
Okay,
Said if
and
you
why
can't
is
hold it in
that?
your hand, it's not yours.
Okay,
Um,
so that's interesting.
and the crypto people, we feel the same exact way about every coin that you own, whether it's Bitcoin or Ethereum or
Mhm.
Hive or XRP, it doesn't matter. If you can't hold it in your wallet, then somebody else controls it. We've seen it time and time again with like Mount Gox and FTX and
Mhm.
all these different companies that just screwed people. Um, yeah, if you can't hold it, it's not yours.
Okay, so you think that, because I've been trying to kind of think about that in my head, and I've come up with reasons, and it kind of boils down to that as to why we haven't really seen that, is because there's not really a market for it. I mean, if it did exist, I don't know. I would rather put my capital into physical metals that I can hold. So do you think that that's something that is going to pop up over time, that might be not investment advice here, but might be a potentially bad investment, or even just an outright scam, or something like that? Or I'm just curious of how you see that playing out in the future, because I'm sure there's plenty of people that are going to attempt to make that work.
I mean, I don't know. I know people have tried. I think like you mentioned, Kinesis tried.
Hmm.
Um, Once again, I would not buy that shit. I mean, it's garbage. It's somebody. I mean, what's the advantage of letting somebody hold your stuff for you? I mean, I guess there might be some security, but the risk of having somebody else hold it, if things really do go sideways, I wouldn't do it. They'd have to
Yeah,
pass a law and come pry it out of my hands.
yeah. I mean, at that point, you're probably just better off buying an ETF if you want to go down that
Exactly.
route.
And there's plenty of them. You can go buy paper gold or paper silver and track it day to day, and it's even cheaper. You get it at spot.
this is kind of a pivot from what we were just talking about. But as far as like a central bank digital currency, there has been a lot of talk about that. And I'm curious, in your guys' opinion, of how likely you think that is, and if you think it is likely, how do you see that being rolled out or introduced? Because that would give a government or a central bank, or even a, well, yeah, a lot of power, like an insane
Yeah,
amount of power.
for sure. So like I sort of touched on it before. I was talking about how we're moving to a totally digital financial world, and like that's part of it. And that's what I was talking about, how people are gonna realize like, oh, your cash is gonna be no longer usable. You have a deadline to come to the bank and convert it to this new digital currency thing, you know what I mean? And like, so I think it's inevitable. Obviously, it's not ideal, especially when it's coming from the government. If it's a decentralized currency, then it's better. There's still issues. There's no way to stop the greed and all this other stuff that affects markets and causes all this ruckus. But at least when it's decentralized, at least it's a little bit a little bit better, and it makes it a little harder to cheat. Not impossible, but harder. So that's what I think. I think it's inevitable. People are just, the majority is gonna accept it, and then like I don't think people are really gonna go to war, like, try to, like, for instance, in America, exercise their Second Amendment and like try to overthrow the government or something over that. Like it's possible, I guess, but I really don't see that. I think it's really inevitable, and it's just that's what we're moving into. And it's unfortunately gonna really even have an effect on precious metals as well. Like I said, it's gonna be the most private, but it's still they're still gonna try to make it that, make it harder to be private with it, because at the end of the day, let's say you want to get something with those precious metals, they're going to want to know where you got it from, and they could even leverage the blockchain for that as well, and keep track of like the history of where the piece comes from. So like you get it'll be like dark precious metals essentially.
like
that
a
are
like
that,
a parallel economy, bit almost like a parallel system where you have this central bank digital currency or whatever one may want to call it, which seems like a very dystopian future when I think about it, where people would have precious metals, or they would, I suppose, have some sort of cryptocurrency, and like I believe it's called a cold storage wallet. Correct me if I'm wrong. um, where it would basically be like a huge black market if the government can track every purchase you make. To avoid that, you would need to circumvent it, and those are, I guess, like I think, like you said, precious metals, because they are tangible items that you can just hand over to somebody, at least person to person. It's very easy to do. Um, that would be the most private, which is, it's interesting to think about. It all seems like the next 30 years are going to be like a dystopian hellscape thinking about this.
Yeah, it does feel that way. And like more so what I was talking about at the end was I was saying that there's even ways that they could try to make precious metals less private by making like, oh, unless this is a verified precious metal piece, like now it's illegal. Let's say you go to a bullion dealer and they're like, where's the certificate or the little paper trail? So like they can do all sorts of stuff. So it's gonna really get pretty interesting, to say the least.
Yeah, I mean, I can that sounds, I think stackers, people that are big into physical precious metal stacking would certainly rebel against that idea. Like that I don't see too many people falling in line except when they have to. I mean, you can even look at how many stackers that are paying what they're actually supposed to in capital gains taxes now. So there is that kind of anti-establishment sentiment, I suppose, with precious metal stackers. Um, but Satoshi, because I know you have, I guess, the technical background in that. Do you see that if that like a CBDC or something like a government with that much control, where uh, would the blockchain is that because I'm not super well versed as you know on that technology, would you be able to actually stay under the radar, or like if they're gonna find you, they have the resources to do so? Because honestly, I don't know. I don't have that technical background.
Well, a CBDC is by far the worst thing that could happen to the world if the United States implements that.
Hmm.
Um, the you think that they have control now when they can call your bank if they figure out what bank you have, they
Hmm.
can call your bank and lock your account. Um, yeah, that's bad. But imagine if they could say, well, we didn't sell enough corn this year, or maybe we grew too much corn and the prices are too low, and we want you to use it up before it goes to waste. So we're going to give everybody $100 free, and you can only use it for the next week, and you have to buy corn with it. I mean, that's a reality. That really could happen. That's a very easy thing to implement with blockchain technology. Um,
Okay.
so they can do that. Imagine if now there's a flip side to that too, where um, programs that we have currently, uh, like what's it called, like WIC, where it's like women and children, they give them
Uh,
like coupons
yeah.
for milk and formula and cheese and stuff. Like those
Mm.
coupons can only be used for that stuff. Imagine if when you get disability, or if somebody gets disability, they can like restrict how you spend that money. They issue it right to your wallet. It goes right to you. It's instantaneous. It's great. It's the future. But you can literally only spend it at this store, and this store, and you can only buy these specific items from these stores. So, I hope you don't want a six pack, or, don't want a pack of cigarettes, because that ain't going to happen. um,
Yeah.
I think that CBDCs are a huge danger to humanity. And I think that it's inevitable that they will get here. Um, it's too much power. One, it's too much power for anybody to have.
Mm.
So, of course, the government's going to want it. Two, it's everything they've wanted. I mean, they already inflate the dollar um, endlessly. Uh, Imagine if they have full control over it with just a keystroke. They're definitely going to take it.
Yeah,
Um,
no, I was gonna say if I was like a Klaus Schwab type, I would want that. That seems like a great way to like subjugate the population and basically
yeah,
enslave people, like as long as they don't revolt, which if you can control the money and you can see every transaction,
exactly. You
you
can
can
you
crack
can
down
block
pretty.
people off.
Yeah, yeah,
You could say, oh well, all the protesters at the colleges, or everybody that was at the um, January 6th thing, if you were within 1 mile of that, we're just going to lock your wallet, and you have no more money now until you come talk to us. They
yeah,
could do that pretty easily. That would be a thing for real.
yeah.
But China already has a CBDC, as far as I know. Russia already has one. It's going to happen. The only reason it hasn't happened yet is because one side proposed it and the other side thought it was a good idea, but they didn't get enough out of it. So they're going to fight back and forth until they both get what they want. And then they're going to roll out a CBDC whether you like it or not. And that what they're going to do to get everybody to buy into it is they'll be like, oh, well, for every dollar you turn in, we'll give you two CBDC bucks or something stupid. They'll
Yeah,
make it some crazy incentive that everybody
the
will buy into it.
the classic, oh, you get 5 times the amount of money. Yeah, that's
Exactly.
and most people
Exactly.
will fall in line with that.
Yeah.
That that is pretty. So you would say that that's like inevitable. I mean, in what time frame are we looking at as far as inevitability with your best guess?
Well, if I wanted to give you like 100% confidence, I'd say before 2050, we'll all be on the CBDC, no question.
That is
Um,
terrifying.
yeah, it is. I think when they could start rolling, I think they'll with it before 2030. I think they'll have some type of legislation in place. They'll have some agreement, and then they'll start like moving people over to it, or maybe they'll start building the systems and stuff. It's probably realistic by 2040, but I would say if we hit 2050 and we didn't have a CBDC, it probably doesn't matter because we're probably all dead anyways. Like
Uh-huh.
there was something catastrophic that happened to our species because I
Mhm.
just can't see the government passing on something
That
like that.
that much control.
Yeah, they just can't see it. I mean, obviously China sees value in it. They'll get
Mhm.
there. It'll probably happen a lot sooner than 2050. But if I had to say with like over 95% confidence, I would say it's by 2050 for sure.
Okay, so if we assume that a CBDC and by extension a social credit system and just insane amount of control, not just financial control, but that is a big component to it. I guess there's two ways to look at it. It's like, is there anything we can do to prevent it? And if we're already in it, like if you say it's inevitable, then what becomes the way to circumvent or try to fight back? Because I mean, I'm guessing by that point, surveillance technology is going to be insane. Where yeah, the only thing I can really think of at that point is like you're doing dead drops of silver bars, like
I,
like something that's a good medium of exchange, something that's money, like silver, gold.
I think the
Uh,
best way to fight it is to support open source currencies like Bitcoin. Um,
okay.
it's open source. It's controlled by the globe. Everybody on the network has a say in how the network operates, if it's going to be upgraded or not. You can upgrade Bitcoin. It will be updated someday. I don't know if it'll be anytime soon, but the majority of the people in the network have to agree on the upgrade. Um, my guess is they will upgrade Bitcoin when quantum computing becomes a threat to the network. When quantum computing becomes a threat to the network, they'll pass some update that pushes like uh, you know quantum encryption or whatever. That'll be like a major update to the network. But there's always little things that they like to do. So
Yeah. And
um, I I don't think it'll be a big deal though. I think that I think CBDC will be a thing, but I think that we're going to have enough alternatives like Bitcoin. I believe in Bitcoin and metals. I think they're going to win.
okay. So with metals, I guess there's at least as of right now, we can't, well, I guess in some small way we can kind of create elements in a not to scale. Um, but I mean, you have to mine silver, gold, whatever it may be, copper, like literally any commodity is a tangible thing. As far as Bitcoin, because I know you use that as like, okay, well that um the network has a say and that is the best way to fight or have a parallel system with that and metals. What is safeguarding against basically government operatives infiltrating that network? What security is in place? Or is that something if they want to do it, it's just they're going to be able to take it over?
I don't know if Bitcoin Man wants to take this one, but I have some ideas behind that.
Yeah, either of you.
Yeah, I just wanted to just touch on because it got pretty heavy and sort of negative, but I wanted
Hmm.
to just say this one thing that if you don't build your future, then you're gonna have to accept the future that's being built for you. And like I think that's really where it's at. And people need to things like Bitcoin and other things being built are are things that are on the right track in that sense because they're trying to build alternatives that people could have and that could give us some power and in this whole situation. And prevent us from going into a fully totalitarian society where the government has full control and we're at their mercy.
And yeah, that is a good point where we could see something come out 3 years from now that none of us have thought of, that will completely negate, central bank digital currency, or this like insane big brother totalitarian regime that we see coming down the pipeline from being a thing. So it's definitely good to try and stay hopeful, but from at least if things keep going down the way that they have been, um, like Satoshi, like you said, it does kind of seem like an inevitable thing for me, unless somebody creates something very novel, or if people really wise up to how dystopian things are going to get and actually push back against it. Um, but yeah, is good. I know we're going down some kind of into some dark places, but I think it is good to consider like how bad things can get, because like you've mentioned, like China has already implemented things very similar to this, and it is very scary, especially if the US, being basically the global hegemon, goes down that route. That's like end game levels. But Satoshi, as far as the question that I'd asked just a little bit ago, as far as the Bitcoin network, are there countermeasures in place for either state actors or non-state actors if they're big enough from taking over the network essentially? Or is it one of those things that if they're dead set on it and they have the resources, they'll be able to do so?
I'm pretty sure that we've already passed the point of where somebody could launch a 51% attack on Bitcoin. I don't quote me on that because I don't keep the stats in front of me, but I'm pretty sure that we've already achieved the point of you can't buy, like there's just not enough computing power to buy to beat it. So the way the network works, in order for them to take it over, when I say 51% attack, they would have to run. Okay, so we were talking about hashes, okay, and what hashes are, and those are on those actually tie blocks together on the blockchain. Each block has a hash of all the previous blocks built into it. And as we know, if you change anything about those blocks, about the data in those blocks, then the hash changes. So that's kind of the power behind the blockchain, is that we can look at the head of the chain and we can confirm that it's the same as our copy, that the hash is the same as our copy, and then we know nothing has changed. So how do you beat that? Well, you got to have enough hashing network, but you have to have enough of the processing power on the network, 51% of the hash rate, to change the blockchain without anybody. I mean, everybody would know, and it would destroy the whole thing. But you would have to own 51% of the network. And in order to do that, you have to have massive, 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 massive amounts of computing power. And as far as I know, it's more than you can buy. Like that's available on the market today. When I say you buy it, it's like renting AWS machines, renting Azure, renting all these machines and like networking them together to fight Bitcoin. You couldn't do it. Okay. So even, I mean, maybe the US might have a supercomputer big enough or strong enough, but I highly, highly, highly doubt it. I mean, we're talking about we're talking, if you know like anything about like Amazon computer farms built under the desert, they're absolutely massive. And I mean, it's just not enough. So that's the first part of it. The second part of it is if you want to attack the network by like trying to clog it up. And one more thing, the amount of computer power that you would need would exceed the cost of just buying Bitcoin. Like if you were to, I think that's what the long time argument has been, is the hash rate to take over the network it would just be cheaper to buy the Bitcoin than it would be to buy all the computing power and fighting the network and trying to do a 51% attack. But
Okay.
that's the first part of it. The second part of it is it's if you want to attack the network by like clogging it up or congesting it, we've seen this time and time again where people have tried or entities have tried to clog up the network. And you know what happens? When you clog up the network, the prices go up. So as the person is clogging the network up, it's getting more and more expensive for them to process transactions. So eventually they run out of capital and
Okay.
it stops. And I mean, you can look through the history of Bitcoin. There's been plenty of times where fees have spiked up and then dissipated for various reasons. Um, yeah,
Okay.
so
So so
it's
that
fairly secure.
okay, so that seems to be kind of built into how the system works, like
Yes.
well, protection against something like that.
And the encryption that's used is the same encryption that we're using for like nuclear bombs in the US. So like it's good. It's the encryption is good. You're not going to break
Mhm.
it. Even for quantum computers, it's going to take years and years and years and years and years before they even have enough qubits because it's not just having enough qubits. A qubit is like a bit in a processor for a computer,
Mhm.
but it's a qubit, so it's multi-state or whatever. The for them to have enough qubits to uh, break AES or to break the encryption that we're using, um, it's going to take them a long time to get there. And mathematically, you can break it today, but it would take you like a trillion years. So even when they have enough qubits, it's still going to take them a long time to break it. And the block changes every 10 minutes. So if they can't break it in that 10-minute window, then it's kind of pointless anyway. So there's a bunch of things that go into the security of Bitcoin. It's very, very well secured. It's never been hacked. So it's good.
Okay, well, that's good to know for my own personal reasons. Um, so all right, dude, honestly, you've taught me way more about because honestly, when I talk to, and that's kind of something I'd like to talk to you guys about is kind of the discourse online. Like we had kind of mentioned earlier on in the discussion how and Satoshi, I think you put it very aptly when it's kind of people at the ends of the bell curve that are either stackers that absolutely hate everything about crypto because it's part of their identity and it's tribalism, or the other way around, crypto people that hate precious metal stacking because it's for whatever reason. I've seen a lot of people online where I kind of asked similar questions that I've asked you or asked you guys here today, and it's always just like, oh, learn the technology. It's like, well, I'm asking you a direct question, and it's like, how many of these people even understand it, or are they just parroting that? It's very odd. But I guess coming back to the discourse between those two things, I mean, what do you guys think is the best way? Because I've noticed that, there are people that I know that, they are only into stacking. They don't care about crypto at all. Um, or it's just not for them, even if they do see value in it, whatever. But it seems like there's a decent overlap. I mean, I'm much more into stacking than I am into crypto by a good margin. But most of the people I know have at least dipped their toes into one side or the other. And I guess people like that aren't as like frothing at the mouth online. Um, but I'm just curious for both of you guys, what do you think is a good way to kind of, because it seems like the two communities, which have a decent overlap in reality, have almost similar goals or similar ideals. How to kind of bring those groups together? Like any good ideas for that? Because I mean, I think over this conversation we kind of ruled out like a gold or silver backed token for various reasons we discussed earlier. Because I was thinking like, well, if we had one of those, then maybe, but there would still be probably animosity there. But to kind of, I guess, cut through the noise on with the discourse on these things, and hopefully this episode will kind of help do that. Um, but I don't know, any ideas for that, or how you really see that playing out over the future with those two kind of groups of people, like people that are mostly into stacking precious metals and people that are mostly into crypto or exclusively onto either one. I mean, I don't think there's some that will never cross over because, like you said, it's their whole identity. But how you see that maybe playing out, or ways to kind of bring those groups into more of an alliance, I guess, if that makes sense, to both of you.
Right. So first of all, I totally agree with what you're saying with the overlap. There's a lot of overlap, and we're trying to go against the same enemy here. So I think that working together is the right move. And I mean, it's hard, like what we're talking about, like trying to make a gold-backed or precious metal-backed cryptocurrency. There's a lot of challenges. It's not impossible, but there's a lot of challenges and things that need to be sorted out, and it needs to be like a lot of people working on it and like making like a global connection essentially. But what I would say to stackers is, look, man, join Hive. It's free. We got a cool silver gold stacking community. Just earn up and then come turn around and buy and use your magic internet money to buy gold or silver from me or somebody else from the group that's down to do it. Like we have a lot of that. So like, and you got nothing to lose, and you have your freedom of speech. You don't have to worry about getting banned or none of this bullshit that centralized platforms come with. So like, I invite y'all to join. Like it's, you literally don't have to invest. There's people from all around the world that don't have shit, and they're providing for their family with this. So it's pretty dope. Check
And
it
I'll
out. Yep.
and I'll put a link to that in the description along with all of your guys' social medias and or websites. And
Yeah.
Satoshi, so what do you think about that kind of
So
idea?
yeah, this is like the whole premise of what we're trying to do with our jewelry. I
Mhm.
see value in metals. I see value in technology. I think that they can solve some of the same problems, and I think that they can solve different problems. It really is a Venn diagram, as Bitcoin Man was talking about, where it's overlapping. Um, I think that the maxis are the only ones that are wrong
Mhm.
because they're, I mean, you can buy your thing, but you know what? I bet you those maxis, even the most hardcore Bitcoin maxi, I bet you they still have underwear. I bet you they still eat food. I bet you
Yeah.
they still have a place to live. You know, there's things that provide value beyond just Bitcoin. I
Yeah.
often hear the argument, oh, you know, Bitcoin's better than real estate. Yeah, well, when it's, you know, negative 32 outside, tell me how warm your Bitcoin keeps you.
Mhm.
And I mean, like I said, we've been investors for a long time in crypto and in metals and real estate. Like I love all of these assets, but um, I think the only losers are really the maxis. And there's a lot of value in both communities. Uh, the reason, much like Bitcoin Man was saying on how he came over to metals, I came over for the same reasons. I started looking around, and um, you know, literally a lot of the same things that maxis on one side say, maxis on the other side say. They both say the same thing, just with a
Mhm.
different asset plugged in.
Yeah.
Um, I think we can do a lot together. I think the animosity is not helpful to either community. It's only slowing us down. Um, and yes, you can use your magic internet money to buy metals. The last like, I don't know, 50 or 60 ounces that I bought for Satoshi Metal to make jewelry with was all bought with Bitcoin, 100% of it. And I got a discount, a 3% discount for using Bitcoin to buy my metals. So
Mhm.
there are suppliers out there that will accept it. Um, and, You can even get discounts when you do it. And we accept Bitcoin. We accept Bitcoin and a number of other tokens. Um,
Mm.
yeah, you can pay in all different types of ways. So come check us out and check those other metal dealers out as well, willing to accept the magic money.
Yeah, and I think I think if I had to take a wild guess as to the subscribers on this channel, um, I mean, it is a precious metals channel, but I did want to, kind of talk about this stuff in this episode. But yeah, I mean, I've made some, I'm much heavier into the precious metals, but I've made some decent gains with crypto and put that into precious metals, and that's helped increase the size of my stack. So it's something to
Get
consider.
I look at buying Bitcoin or buying Ethereum or buying Hive. I look at this as buying, Amazon at $1 or Microsoft at $1. You're investing in a company, not a company. It's not a company. Crypto is not a company, but you're investing in a technology, and you're investing in the future of it. And if it's true and Bitcoin does end up being the way that we transfer wealth across borders without taking huge fees and penalties from companies, instantaneous transfer. If that's true, then it's a valuable technology. It's not gold, it's not silver, but it is a valuable technology. And the more people that jump into it, the more valuable it's going to become. And I strongly believe that Bitcoin will be that its primary use case will be um, I think it's going to be international money transfers. I think that's going to be the biggest use for Bitcoin. And then you're going to see all these investment firms which are now buying Bitcoin. I just saw that I can't remember the name, but a big insurance company. What was it? Did you see this Bitcoin man? It just came out today. I don't remember which one it was. I started buying it today, and they're adding it to their balance sheets because it's a strong performer. It's been a strong performer for the last 10 years. Um, and I think they see more in it than just something that you stack. It's something that you stack that has value because it does a thing.
Mhm.
So I think that there's a lot that we can do together. I do believe in bringing back a gold standard in states for state currencies if we wanted to do that. I think that's a great deal. I think we should get away from the U.S. dollar, or bind the U.S. dollar back to a gold standard,
Yeah. Yeah, and
something like that. But the inflation has to stop. I mean, it's crazy. It's absolutely crazy. My wife and I, we're both engineers. We make a good living, and we feel inflation just like everybody else. It fucking sucks. I mean, when it
oh,
first hit, our like our monthly grocery bill doubled. It's wild.
oh yeah. I mean, compared to what I was making at work, a year ago, and I've gotten multiple pay increases since then, and it's like I'm hurting bad. I'm hurting
Yeah,
bad,
everybody is.
bad.
It's
Yeah.
crazy.
So I think that's something that you know both I guess the hardcore people on both sides I think that's a good way to tie it together is like that's always a good thing as a common enemy, and with how the dollar and other government fiat currencies central banks have been operating with inflating away the money it's or inflating away the value of the money, I should say. Uh, that's something that we can at least, wherever you stand on that spectrum, whether you are just into stacking or just into crypto or you're into both, uh, you can agree that that's bad and we should try and move away from that or try and change the system in some way so that things are more fair to the common person. And that's how I've viewed silver, especially with it being relatively affordable, is like putting that almost the power that comes with having a good real money back into the hands of people instead of holding all your wealth in dollars, which can get inflated away at any point in time. And we're seeing that now. And if it goes into hyperinflation, then it's going to be completely worthless.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, yeah, well, we've been going for about an hour, maybe a little over an hour. So anything else you guys would like to touch on?
No, I think that I'm pretty good personally, and I just want to say thanks for the opportunity, and it was a pretty awesome show, and yeah, thanks.
Oh, no problem. Satoshi, anything else you'd like to touch on?
No, I just wanted to echo what he said. It's really great speaking to y'all in person, and I appreciate the support that y'all have given us. And I hope that we can continue to support you and the podcast and whatever else you need in the future.
Okay, sounds great. So, I will put for both Satoshi and Bitcoinman, I will put their links in the description to websites, social medias, all of that different stuff. So check that out in the description if that piqued your interest. If you managed to watch this far, like and subscribe. And thanks so much, guys, for being on and having this discussion, because been wanting to do a discussion like this for a while, and you guys seem to be kind of the right people, at least that I know, to kind of talk about this. I know this is mostly a stacking channel for precious metals, but there always is that the crypto thing, and I kind of wanted to bridge that. And I think we had a decent discussion. I hopefully the audience learned a decent amount. I know I at least did over the course of the conversation. So thank you guys so much for being on.
Thank you.
Yeah,
All
thank you
right.
guys.
All right. And once again, links to everything will be in the description. This is episode 5, GG Bullion Podcast, signing off.